your hand over your eyes, I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. Now, if you just put your hand over your heart, extend out your arms. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that all God is and all God has is available to you now to enjoy. All God is and all God has, all Allah is and all Allah has, all Elohim is and all Elohim has, all the goddess is and all the goddess has is fully given to you now for you to enjoy. And I want to emphasize that word, to enjoy, because sometimes we think we just need to get by. We're not get-by tribe. We're not a get-by people. It's for you to fully enjoy in your life. Nothing has ever been withheld from you. Nothing will ever be withheld from you. Nothing has ever been withheld from you in your life. No matter how many times you've been disappointed by life, no matter how many times you've kind of screwed up in life and you're ashamed of yourself in life, God has never withheld anything that God is or God has for you to use and to enjoy. No love has ever been withheld from you. Oh, Reverend Georgia, I've been looking for a mate for well over a year now. I've been looking and praying and it's still not here. Because we're not ready to receive. See, everything you're seeking is seeking you right now. There is somebody who's gorgeous out there, who has a job and goes to it every day. Out there. Looking for you, who's kind and compassionate and passionate and sweet. Looking for you right now. If we don't have what it is that we're seeking, it's because we're not fully ready to receive yet. We're not 100% ready to have that person in our life. Well, peace has never been withheld from you. Well, Reverend Georgia, you should have seen my family at Thanksgiving. You know, yelling at each other and fighting, and my brother and my sister-in-law are triangulating with my other nephew, and they want to get me involved, and you know, my own kids, they're not talking to each other, and the dog's always scratching. I don't have any peace in my life. Peace is never withheld from you. You always have peace. Ernest Holmes would say this. He would say, when you feel like you don't have peace, you turn away from the howlers, because you always have peace in your life. And if you're not experiencing it, you're not ready to receive it yet in your life. Money has never been withheld from you. Never has been withheld from you. How much? The universe is saying, how much do you want? And we say back, just give me what I need. Just give me what I need. The universe says, okay, that's fine. I'll give you just that. When you're ready to receive it. But until you're ready to receive it, I can't even give you that. Well, we have, you know, we're not a church that just looks at what we aren't doing in order to be able to get what we want in this life. We're a practical church. So not only am I here to tell you that if you don't have what you want in your life, you're not ready to receive it, I found a book. It's an old book. It's a great book. It's one of Ernest Holmes' best books. Those of you who have taken foundations, you know that Ernest Holmes can be an acquired taste, can he? Sometimes? I mean, because he loves a word. And he doesn't just love one word, he loves 20 words. If he can say it in 20 words or more, he will. This is a condensed version. It's a fabulous book. It's called This Thing Called You. And what he's done is he's made it concise. The spiritual nourishment in this book is so great, I could spend a whole year of Sundays just gathering what we have in here. But what I've done is I've looked and taken out 4 spiritual practices that we can do that will make us receivers, that will enable us to let that which is seeking us actually find us and we find it in our life. So I want to look at 4. There are tons of them in there, but I've chosen 4 that I want to work with today. The first one is this: keep firm before you. Your memories are for reminiscing, not for forecasting. Keep firm before you. Your memories are for reminiscing, not for forecasting. Your memories are a part of who you are now. And so I encourage you, don't waste any time trying to forget your memories. They're a part of you. You're not going to forget them. What we want to do is, instead of forgetting them, we want to remove the blame and the shame and the guilt from our memories. Our memories can inform us, but not until we remove the shame and the blame and the guilt from our memories. Let me read to you what he writes in this book. Nothing you have ever thought, said, done, seen, learned, or experienced has left an imprint on your subconscious mind. Now, I said that wrong. Everything. Everything. Everything you have ever thought, said, done, seen, learned, or experienced has left an imprint on your subconscious mind. And by everything, I mean everything. That thing you overheard when you were 3 years old and you totally misunderstood it, that is in your subconscious mind. But he goes on to say this. He said, and it's not only your individualized memory. The subconscious also contains memory images of your family life, your ancestral background, and the sum total of what the whole world has thought or believed. That's powerful. That's powerful because everything that has ever happened on the planet is in your subconscious as well. It's all found its way into your subconscious. You know, sometimes we have a reaction to life and a circumstance in life or an experience in life, and we know exactly where it came from. It came from a value that we hold. It came from a political understanding that we hold. It came from a family tradition or belief that we have. For instance, my father always felt rich people were not good people. He always felt rich people were suspect. And I incorporated that. And so for me, I have to be very careful with poverty mentality in my life. I don't have to blame my father. Somewhere along the line, on the dock, in the shipyard where he worked, he must have been treated badly by some rich person, and he extrapolated that experience into a whole belief system that then he shared with his family. I don't need to blame my dad for that. I need to have compassion for him, for whatever it was that caused that belief system. But I don't have to make it mine. I have to take the shame out of it and the blame out of it and know that I experienced it, but I don't have to make it mine in my life. See, there are other things that are global, that didn't just outpicture from us, our family, but from the whole world that it outpictured from. Sometimes when we don't know, you have a reaction to life and you think, where did that come from? I don't even know where that came from. It came from your subconscious. Whether it came from your familial or the global subconscious in your life. See, so take money. For instance, maybe you grew up with parents who were doing well and didn't have poverty consciousness, but it's not going so well for you in your life. And you know that there's something stuck in there. Maybe it's the global outpicturing that we experienced that is in everybody's subconscious. Ernest Holmes says everything that happened in the world is in our subconscious memory. Maybe it was, the Great Depression. Maybe that's what you're experiencing. Because everything that happened is written on the walls of time that you have access to. Nothing to blame, nothing to shame, nothing to feel guilty about, but something to know that when it's in our subconscious, we're acting upon it in our life. And it's not just about global things like the Great Depression. Many of you have heard me tell the story of the young bride who had the ham, and it was time to cut the ham, And I mean, just Easter time, it was time to serve the ham, and she went into the kitchen and she cut the end of the ham off, and put it in the pan. And her young husband said, "What are you doing? That's perfectly good ham." And she said, "I don't know, my mother always did it." So he called the mother-in-law, and he said, pretty brave kid, he called the mother-in-law and said, "Why did you always cut the end of the ham off?" And she said, I don't know, my mother always did it. So he called the grandmother-in-law, and he said, "Why did you cut the ham off?" And the grandmother-in-law said, "Because that's the only size pan we had to cook the ham." We operate from things like that in our life, that we have no understanding how they happen, but they are a memory of ours in our life. Let me read you another thing that Ernest Holmes says about this whole memory thing. The memories are not dead things. Quite the reverse. They are always active. But there's more to it than this. Just as you are being acted upon by your own memory, the mind of history, and your environment, you are also being acted upon by the mind of God, which is always around you. See, once we take the blame, the shame, and the guilt out of the memories, then what do? Because we're still acting on them. What we do is that we remember that we have an awesome God who is stronger than any memory than we can possibly have. You know, Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith says, it's time now for us to stop telling our problems, to stop telling God how big our problems are, and start telling our problems how big our God is. And that's what we need to do. We need, when we get into this reaction to life and we can't quite understand why we're having it, but if we are to believe Ernest Holmes, it's coming from our subconscious, and that came from a memory that we have somewhere, whether it's a personal memory from a family or a global memory that was written on the walls of time, that when that happens, what we're to do is to remember today's spiritual truth. All God is and all God has is fully available and given to you to enjoy now. See, our job isn't to forget the memories, it's to put it into a perspective. We're not doomed to carry around these sorry belief systems that somebody else has and that we got caught up in. We're not doomed to carry those around. Second one, so the first one is always remember your memories are for reminiscing, never for forecasting. See, if you just practice that for a week, your life would change. Memories are never they're always for reminiscing and never for forecasting. The second one is elevate your dream to a spiritual practice. Elevate your dreams, your daydreams, to a spiritual practice. If you do that, they will help you become receivers. They will help you believe in your good. They will help you feel your good. Your daydreams will help you to receive your good. The daydreams are very powerful in helping us become receivers in this life, but you got to give them a minute. You can't have fleeting daydreams. You got to have daydreams that you spend a few minutes really getting into. Pretend you're the director of the daydream. You're the script writer of the daydream, and get into it. Make it in full color. Spend some time there. What are you wearing in your daydream? What are you driving in your daydream? Who are you with in your daydream? What are you eating in your daydream? Spend a few minutes making that daydream totally juicy. You know, when we were kids, we knew how to daydream, and we did it all the time. And then, unfortunately, we grew up, and we stopped daydreaming. We want you to take those daydreams and dust them off. Are there some from your childhood? Because remember, they're all in your subconscious. They're all right there. Are there some that you could take out and dream again about? You know, Dick Clark was a young teenager when he dreamed, probably television hadn't even been out very long, when he dreamed of American Bandstand. There was nothing in like it before that. He dreamed that up. The guy that started the ski resort in Vail, Colorado, was 12 years old when he first dreamed that he was going to start a winter wonderland and playland. We can take those dreams out and dust them off. And they don't have to be big things like, you know, American Bandstand or or a winter wonderland. Maybe what your daydream is to make your family more harmonious. Maybe what your daydream is to make your workplace more harmonious in your life. Whatever your daydream is, take it out, dust it off. Rafe Ellis is doing a workshop on vision boarding. Everybody needs a daydream. Everybody in this room should have a daydream. Elevate that to spiritual practice. You know, it's just not about prayer and meditation. Daydream is a powerful spiritual practice. Rafe is doing a vision board workshop. Everybody who has a daydream should be in that workshop sharpening it up. And if you don't have a daydream, you really need to be in that workshop. And get yourself a daydream that is worthy of you. But maybe you don't want to dust an old one off. Maybe you want a brand new one. Everybody can to develop brand new daydreams. I once heard about a college professor, and he was about to graduate this group of seniors, and so he was going to give them a test. And he said, look, you can take the questions from column 1, or you can take the questions from category 1, or you can take the questions from category 2, or you can take the questions from category 3. It doesn't matter to me, you choose. He said 1 is a little harder, 2 is not so hard, and 3 are pretty easy. So you choose which ones that you want. So they took the test, they handed the papers in, and right in front of the students, he graded the papers. And he didn't even read them. He did not read them. If they said category 1, he gave them all an A. Category 2, he gave them all a B. Category 3, he gave them all a C. And they were complaining. They said, what are you doing? He said, I wasn't testing your knowledge. I was testing your aim. Because that's who succeeds in life, are people who have an aim at all, and then a higher aim in their life. It's important. Elevate your daydream to spiritual practice. The third one is have a little patience. Keep your spiritual pants on. Keep your perspective in life. You know, it is not true that God is taking God's sweet time to get you what you want. That's not true. God has already given you everything God will give you. Not taking the sweet time. So the next time we're disappointed, or the next time we're mad at God because we didn't get what we wanted, stop being it. Remind ourselves we have work to do to become receivers. And part of that is understanding how important it is for us to be patient and perseverant. You know, many of you have seen The Secret, so you know that powerful image of them planting the seed, and then it almost is ready to break through. It just hasn't broken through. And you give up. You give up. You put a little more dirt on it. We have to be, let me read to you what he says in the book about this. I like this. I love this book. This is a great book. Do you remember the story of Jesus that Jesus told about the woman who came to a judge for help? At first, the judge refused her request because he comfortably settled in with his family and did not wish to be disturbed. Do you remember how persistent this woman was? She refused to take no for an answer. She just kept on knocking at the door until her faith and determination were rewarded. This is the story of your life and of every person's life. Just keep right on knocking on the doorway of your consciousness until every no becomes a yes, every negation an affirmation, every fear a faith. You cannot fail if you remain steadfast. Finally, the fetters of bondage will drop from you. You will walk out of your self-imposed prison only to discover that the door was never really locked and the windows were not actually barred. You were bound merely by chains of unbelief. It's so important. We get so easily distracted. And here's what you can do. Those of you who want to be spiritual activists who are in the congregation this morning, here's what you can do. Not only remain persistent in your own, but encourage those around you to not give up. That's a great spiritual gift that you can give to somebody. Don't give up. I'm right here with you. Don't give up. Keep going. Don't give up. If we can be those kinds of spiritual activists in the world, we can change the world. starting with this very congregation. Number 4, the last one is stay centered. And, here's the thing. It's always hard to act because I know everybody says, yeah, I should do that. Every morning when you get up, if you could train yourself, and you can, train yourself to give 5 minutes to God. And those of you who say you're not meditators, don't worry about that. Don't meditate. Do not meditate. Don't even use that word meditation. No, don't use it. What you want to do is to be still and know that I am for 5 minutes somewhere in your house. Be still and know that I am. There are a lot of us who say we're not meditators, our mind is monkey, and as I frequently say, I don't believe you because I know you go to the movies, and I know when you go to a movie, you sit there for an hour and a half and you watch whatever. You don't get up and run around. You just sit there and watch the movie. I get that. But there's something about, I think it's about the word meditation. I think it just frips people out. And so I think what we need to do is just say, I'm going to give God 5 minutes. I'm just going to sit down, and all I'm going to do is listen to my breath and know that I am. Know that I am. And if we can do that, we can change our whole life. We live in what's called an information age. And so much information is just coming at us all the time. When I was a kid, there were 3 channels on the television. And if you went to, I know, it's funny, isn't it? If you went to sleep and the television was on, didn't that pattern come on and blah, and eventually be on so long you'd wake up and you'd see the pattern, you needed to go to bed. Well, now there are 500 channels and they're going all the time. We live in an information age and we're just bombarded with it. So we need to be able to be centered in our life. It's kind of like we went from being plugged into 110 into 220. And now we're just moving. And if we can stop and know that I am, 5 minutes. If we could just, of course I'd love you to take 20 minutes. But if you could take 5 minutes every day and know that about yourself. Everything is so much faster now. Many of us, when we were kids, if you wanted a sports shoe, you got a pair of Keds, didn't you? You got your Keds and you threw them in your locker, and that was your sports shoe. That was your tennis shoe. Well, now there are 77,000 kinds of sports shoes available to people today. 77,000 sports shoes. And some of them have balls on the feet. Some of them have little light bulbs that go on. Some of them are positioned so that it'll tighten up your ass if you walk for them long enough. I mean, they're just all kinds of them, aren't they? Did she really say that? Yes, I really said that. Okay, so here's what we need to know. All those tennis shoes aren't in the stores, but they're all available to us, and our nervous system knows that. See, our nervous system knows that. Our nervous system knows that we are constantly being bombarded with new information, and our work is to just take a few minutes to be still and know that I am. If you leave today with only one thing, leave with this thing. Make an affirmation out of today's spiritual principle. Make an affirmation out of this notion that all God is and all God has is available to me for my, and don't leave this off, for my enjoyment. For my enjoyment. All God is and all God has is available to me for my enjoyment. Let's take this message into prayer, knowing that there's only one power and presence. It's the power and presence of love. It's the power and presence of the universe that will balance itself out. If there is something out of balance, it will create strife in order to get it back in balance. And so we know that our work is to stay in balance with the universe and let others join us. To not become part of the howlers, but become part of the people who understand that our God is an awesome God. I give thanks for this. I release His word into law, and together we say, and so it is.